We got to go deeper into one piece you brought up quickly there, and that was the Dean Ornish study. You mentioned eggs and red meat, and they're tied to cancer, prostate cancer.
There is a general. Say they're tied to cancer.
No, but you made the statement that that's the myth. Yeah, let's break this myth, because a lot of people tie processed meats and red meats to cancer as a whole. So for somebody adopting a ketogenic diet, naturally they're going to take in, I shouldn't say always, but in general, they're going to be taking in quite a bit of animal protein. So that would be a concern if that myth was true. So can you debunk it for us?
Yeah, well, so number one, when we've actually looked at prostate cancers, so insulin and IGF-1 are big drivers or associations with prostate cancer. What we know that when we follow ketogenic diets, there's actually randomized trial data that we lower insulin and IGF-1, and those are people eating predominantly. They actually looked at their diets, eggs, red meat, all of those foods that we think are, a problem. So again, in a ketogenic state or in a low carb, high fat diet, red meat does not drive up insulin. It does not drive up IGF-1, nor do eggs. When the Cochrane Review looked at all of these things, they couldn't find a link between any of that and prostate cancer. When we've looked at observational studies, just on, if we go back to the fruit and vegetables, there's actually no improvement. And even there was one study that showed worsening prostate risk with intake. So observational studies are terrible. We have to look at mechanisms. So what drives cancer growth and what foods can drive those markers or those drivers up. And so, yes, when we do a low fat diet, there are some people who will lower insulin and lower IGF-1, although not as dramatically or as numerous. So as many people will do it by doing a low carb, high fat. So it's about mechanism. It's not about the individual food. So, I can't tell you how many different myths I've heard, but again, always go back to the study, if there even is one. And sometimes it's just mantra. I'm just going to say this statement and I'll say it enough, everybody will believe me. Sometimes it comes from a study, but now you have to look at the study. Was that red meat in the setting of, meat, a spaghetti and meatballs counts as meat, and a hamburger on a bun with ketchup and mayonnaise and, French fries count as meat? Or are we talking steak and broccoli? Do eggs, are we talking scrambled eggs, or are we talking ice cream and donuts and pastries, which are all made from eggs? And almost always, if the study doesn't sound right to me, it's always because they include a whole bunch of processed garbage as their food. So it's not the actual food itself. So if we could just go back to studying steak and eggs, broccoli and salad, we'd probably do pretty darn well.
Okay. How do you think about steak and eggs versus, say, like sausages, salami, pepperonis, things that are more processed?
So I think that we don't have to be adamant about not excluding some of the cured meats. I think that curing meats were probably part of our, ancestral. We had to do something to, make the animal last for more than a day. But I will say that I think we lose something in the nutritional value of cured meats. Like that fresh meat is coming with maybe more minerals or more, are we degrading some of the vitamin and some of the pieces? But as far as, do processed meats cause cancer? There's actually no data to support that. There's one statement in the WHO that they blame both red meat and processed meat, but actually in the red meat section, they did not come up with any data that actually supported that claim. So it was very weak. And again, most of it was all observational, right? We just talked about the classic meat eater, which is our pizza and hamburger eater, not our steak and broccoli eater. And then there was in the processed meat, they really cherry picked what they looked at. And there is some data that, I guess if you give processed meats to a rat that you injected with cancer, it might grow, but will it cause that cancer to grow? And in the observational literature, no. And there was a rat study that was done where they fed the rats a bunch of different meats. And the bacon-fed rats actually had the best-looking colons. And in that study, or in that WHO paper, they said the only link that they could even possibly say was in colon cancer. And it wasn't in any other cancer, yet somehow it's been blanketed over every single cancer is caused by red meat and processed meat. And yet we don't really have the data to say even colon cancer is. And so I'm not opposed to it on occasion. Maybe you're at a Super Bowl party and there's a meat and cheese tray, and that's the only thing that's on plan there. Have some. But that wouldn't be the best source of nutrition. That wouldn't be, I don't want you, maybe going on the bacon diet. But I think that again, optimizing our nutrition, that's really what a true ketogenic diet is. It's not the keto products and the keto baked goods and the keto whatever. That's not a ketogenic diet in my book. Mine is eating real ancestral, anti-inflammatory, nutrient dense, foods that are made to nourish us. We eat for nourishment. We eat for all of these essential macro and micronutrients that we need to live and to run our body.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
This is your body saying, hey, I finally had to throw down this really big, scary word at you so that you would stop and listen, so that you would stop and look. And so now let's just work to see what is